Kumar Bajpayee. He is working as a deputy librarian, Ram Manohar Lohia, National Law University, Lucknow, and he is also a head of the Madhu Limbey Library. So, with these words, I request our Honorable President, Dr. Prabhat Pandey, MPLA, so to please take over the proceedings. Dr. Prabhat sir, I request you to please introduce our speaker, Dr. Manish Bajpayee.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Dr. Sandeep. Good evening, friends. I welcome you all in fifth session of MPLA webinar series for library professionals. Today we have two speakers, as told Sandeep. Our first speaker is Dr. Manish Bajpayee. He is deputy librarian in Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia Law University. He will discuss on UGC initiatives on academic integrity and plagiarism. I request Dr. Manish to come forward and enlighten us with his thoughts. Dr. Manish Bajpayee.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pandey. Good afternoon to each and everyone present here.
Manish, you can share your PPT meantime. Yes, first slide.
Sure. It's my privilege to be here to share my views on the issue. And first of all, I also extend my gratitude and thanks to Dr. Pandey ji and Dr. Sandeep ji for giving me this opportunity. See, my topic, I will focus only on the initiatives taken by the UGC on plagiarism. I will not talk about another issues related to academic integrity and other issues have been taken up by the UGC. So my presentation is focused on plagiarism. So you see, the plagiarism related issues are initially prior to the regulation came into the existence are being tackled by the institution on its own. Every institution is having their own tactics, their own policy to handle the plagiarism issue. Even you may have realized that the same university, various departments are there, and departments are also managing plagiarism issues in their own way. So what happens in this way? Actually it leads to the differences in standards among the institutions. You see, suppose for example RMLNLU is following another policy, and at the same time National Law University Delhi is following the same policy to cater with the plagiarism issue. So in this way, there is no uniformity, even no set of standard to be followed, and everything was in like what to do. So UGC come up with a plan to give a platform for providing a uniform platform to encourage academic integrity, whether it is the scientific institutions, whether they are the research institutions, where they are the social sciences research institutions, whether they are universities or and so on. The motive of these regulations of these initiatives of UGC is to curb the plagiarism issues and to promote the academic integrity, to promote the honesty of the academic work. So you see, the overall the objectives of the UGC was the objective of UGC was, you see, to provide fair chance to everyone in solving the problem and enhancing the knowledge in research and academia work. But it is not only confined with the research and academics. It can be also used in various purposes too, which are related to intellectual property rights, and the intellectual property rights of the creators has been used by someone else. So it is actually to promote the ethics among the researchers, students, faculty members, and other such peer groups. So in this way, UGC came up with some regulation, even some PDS system, to promote academic integrity. And Pathakji, I would like to share my PPT.
Please,
Can I share right now?
please, participants are actually asking that PPT is not visible. You please go ahead and share
Okay.
the PPT. Yeah.
Now it is visible.
Yeah, visible. Now just press F5.
The scenario what the efforts had been made by the UGC through the Incubate Center and as well as through other bodies. You see, if you understand the word plagiarism, you can found in this picture, honesty, publishing, responsibility, ethics, transparency, falsified, fair sincerity, and careful reproducibility and contribution, scholar professionalism, authorship, fraud, accountability, gratitude, funding, all are teaching, intellectual property, all are the terms are associated with each other, and they all are having a thin line. If you cross a thin line, you may have their different meaning, but all are related to a same kind of things. In the research, I am talking about the research and academic activity only right now. So in that aspect, if you cross any limitation, it means you are approaching to the plagiarism. You see, if you are not honest in your writings, then you are approaching towards the plagiarism. At the same time, if you are not taking responsibility, you are also approaching towards the plagiarism. If you are not transparent to your work, then also you are promoting to that area. So first, everything is connected, which is the base. Base is research. For why we are approaching to the what is the reason why we approach to the plagiarism and copyright violation and other things? The core is research. And you see, my favorite definition is this one, given by Walls and Wenzel in 1981, that research is a systematic, you see, research is a systematic, formal, rigorous, and precise process employed to gain solutions to problems or to discover and interrupt new facts and relationships. See, if you go through this definition, you can find every word has its own meaning. Your research should be systematic. If it is formal, research is a rigorous process. It is not a ready-made kind of things you just go and take it, or you just review 2-3 papers, or you review internet resources and you get a solution. It is a rigorous process. It is precise. It is not like that you have to write 300 pages PG, PhD thesis or any dissertation. The actual research is the precise one. It is not like to add many things. So therefore, research is a systematic, formal, rigorous, precise process employed to get solutions to the problem or to discover and interact new facts and relationships. Now we see the definition, the term plagiarism is taken from the Latin word plagiarizus, and it means kidnapper. See, why not its meaning is abduction?
किस नाम से किया है?
Because kidnapping is a heinous crime as per IPC. You see, if IPC, so kidnapping is more heinous crime than abduction and then a theft case. So that's why in a Latin word, the person who has taken this word first in 16th century, and he was art and literature field, and his name was he was the Roman poet actually, Marcel. So Marcel has observed that somebody is reciting his poem and claiming that it is his own poem. So he mentioned firstly like plagiarism. So plagiarism is more heinous crime than stealing something.
एक मिनट आप तो कहते हैं
Now you see in this group in 2010 somebody has
केस में क्या है ना
created something and he was very happy and he mentioned that we built this. You see, the second cartoon, you find that in 2020 he stole that and he is saying that I stole that. Because he is not mentioning from where he has taken up, he is just copy, paste or something, illegal he has done. Sorry, not, I would like to say illegal, something unethical he has done. You see another scenario of plagiarism. A student has been given to write a project. He went to his teacher and he showed his work. The teacher said, "Do you have taken it from Google or you made it?" Actually, you see, in my kids, not my kids, and I think in our generation, kids who are capable to pay are proudly chosen public schools. Sorry, private schools. And in private schools, you will see that they are giving so many project works, and the parents are busy. They download it from the internet and copy paste and get print out and submit it to the teacher. So that's why a teacher is asking whether you have done or you Google, because in that project he is not acknowledged that he has taken from where. So simply in from both the cartoon, if we see what is plagiarism. So plagiarism is copy or cut paste without proper referencing or acknowledgement. If you had copied anything, if you have pasted it without referencing, then it is plagiarism.
अभी मैं दो लोग एक्सपेल किया, एक्चुअली क्या है लोग क्यू में.
Let us see the definition of plagiarism. Many of us have given plagiarism and we all know about plagiarism is
मुझे लगा आपने
act of presenting the work of another as your own. Hence, somebody has done and you are presenting that work and you are saying that yours. If you use the work of someone else and either knowingly or unknowingly claim it as your own creation, you are committing an act of plagiarism. Doesn't matter whether you have knowingly did the plagiarism, or you have copied paste, and or you have done unknowingly or accidentally. But if anyway it has been done, it means the work has been under the plagiarism activity. Friends, why it happens actually? Plagiarism may happen why it happen? You see, if you copy word by word from the another word, if you paraphrase, sometimes what is happening is there is a paragraph, you are just paraphrasing, you are changing synonymous word from MS Word dictionary or from any other dictionary and failing to properly cite and your source. Sometimes you are not properly, citing also is a kind of plagiarism. Attributing information to a source from which it did not come. Sometimes it is also called proxy referencing. Suppose you have written a paper, but the journal is the journal only will accept your paper if you have given proper references. So you have just made some references, they are not directly connected to that particular text or the content, but you have made this because of to fulfill the requirement of that journal. The another is the submitting a work created by another under you. It is happening also if you somebody has created, but you just mention your name. I have one experience in that way. Actually, I have written some paper, I submitted somewhere, and I was the first author, but when the article was published, I saw that my name is at the third number. So I was also surprised. That is also a kind of plagiarism. Submitting a work created by yourself and others, but claiming the work entirely as your own work. Means you have done something in joint venture, but when got sent to the somebody else, somewhere, and it has published only by your name, that is again a big problem, and it is also one of the reason is to plagiarism, to be plagiarized, because sometimes you want success, but you are not going proper channel. Now the question is, why people plagiarize? It's why? Because time constraint is also there. Suppose a PhD scholar is there and he has to complete his PhD thesis within 3 years, and time is running fast, and he is compelled to work within that area, within that time period. So that is also a problem. Sometimes laziness means lethargic approach. I will do that, and he is not doing. Lack of fundamental research skills, you are finding that, because it is quite common, because training of research methods we are getting in the easy level. Some of the institutions are also not have added research method and research technology and all that. So this is one of the reason also. Lack of knowledge of research methods also. In which study, suppose somebody is doing empirical research, so he does not know whether quantitative research method has to be used, whether qualitative research method has to be used. He is just pick and choose method. He applied choose and pick and choose method, and this is one of the reason where he approached to the plagiarism process. Ignorance and carelessness about the project. He is very ignorant about the project. That project he has taken up, and he's thinking that he can do that, but he ignored many times many skills that, okay, I have taken this project, I will work in my own way, but he is not taking care of the standards which has to be applied. Research from peer group and supervisors and society. Sometimes it also happens. Suppose you are working in a department where 3 faculty members are there, and 2 of them are writing papers, and their papers are published in many of the research journals, but you are not able to do that. In that case, you also try to write and submit and publish the paper, but you have not as much skill as the others, and this could be only the peer pressure. Due to peer pressure, you are forced to write paper. So this also leads to the plagiarism. So if you see these 1 and 2 slides, on the basis of these 2 slides, we can divide, we can scale the plagiarism into 4 parts. The direct plagiarism is word to word, means exactly you have taken up, but you have not acknowledged. The second one is the self-plagiarism, use of own document to another document. Recently, in I think on 20th April 2020, UGC has also defined self-plagiarism, and the UGC, that notification says reproduction in part or whole of one's own previously published work without adequate citation and proper acknowledgement, claiming the most recent work as new and original for any academic advantage, amounts to text recycling. You see, suppose you have done something and it has been published. You have published a paper. That is your research work. Research means a new work, an innovative work. But you again going to publish that paper. But you have, in the next paper, you are using some of the content of the previously published paper, and you are claiming again that we again research and improve something. That is not in fact. So that is also comes under the plagiarism, and that is called the self-plagiarism. Another plagiarism is the mosaic plagiarism. See, phrases without quotation marks. There are so many phrases, and you are using those phrases in your content. If you are not bringing them in a quotation marks, then it is a kind of, you see, plagiarism. The fourth one is the accidental plagiarism. Sometimes you are paraphrasing, proxy references. Sometimes you are reading something so many times and you think that this is your idea, and you are using that idea, but in fact that idea was taken from somewhere else, and that is also comes under the, you are unknowingly do that, and that comes under the accidental plagiarism type. The next one is the plagiarism spectrum. You see, the plagiarism spectrum is okay. If you are if you are in act of the plagiarism, whether you have deliberately done, whether it has been a poor practice, but overall this is a plagiarism. Suppose using a source too closely when paraphrasing. You are paraphrasing a document and you are not mentioning. The copying work from a source without a citation. You have taken, but you have not mentioned it. The other one is reusing work you have done for an earlier. That is self-plagiarism. Again, working with other students to complete an individual task. Suppose you have given assignment for 5 students for a class, and they have submitted an assignment to you, and you are a teacher. So actually that is their work, but ultimately you compile these 4 or 5 papers and you taken up some gist from there and you publish your own name. That is also comes under the plagiarism. Ghostwriting, you must have heard about the ghostwriting, buying, stealing, or borrowing others' work, paying someone to do your work. If you are paying for your work, you must have seen so many. You must have received many emails from US and other countries, and even from India also to work for your PhD. If you give your thesis, they will give you 10 papers. They give you 5 papers, like that. I'm giving you just example. That is also a ghostwriting. Someone is giving some monetary benefits or other benefits. That is also comes under plagiarism. And this is actually all these things are the deliberate. You are doing deliberately plagiarism. Whether it is a poor practice of your work style or you are doing knowingly, that is actually a plagiarism. So, sorry. So you see the when these all things come. So how to curb, how to reduce such incidents. So the technology actually helps us. So anti-plagiarism software tools are there. So there are so many anti-plagiarism software tools. Some are recommended by the UGC, some are tested by OWN, and some are the free, some are open source. No, there are so many. But the anti-plagiarism software tools are having their own limitations. You cannot go beyond 10 pages or something else. You cannot check your tables and pictures, images, etc. There are so many limitations. Even they don't have a big databases where to check. So these are some, anti-plagiarism software tools which has to be used. That is Turnitin, iAuthenticate, Calibrate, Viper, and so on. But while you are checking this anti-plagiarism software tools, actually they can assist only to check the similarity of your document available in another document. They cannot decide whether this is plagiarized or not. They are only the similarity checker software, and they are helping you, assisting you in finding the similarity and one has to decide whether the content is proper cited or not, whether plagiarized or not. One has to decide. Another limitation of anti-plagiarism tools are that they can only check the digital. They have the document only can be checked through the digital resource, and not only the digital resources, the digital resources which are available with the anti-plagiarism software tool, that can be only. So there are limitations also in very few. I think only DrillBit is one of the Karnataka-based anti-plagiarism software tool, which is started to provide some Indian languages to include in the databases. So this is one of the biggest limitation of the anti-plagiarism software tool in India, that we can check only the document written in English language. Other than English language like Hindi, Tamil, Bengali, you cannot check with anti-plagiarism software tool. If you check it, then you will get 0% of similarity. So here you see the plagiarism and similarity index report. So similarity index report is what? The data which is exactly available on other resources. This is actually nothing with the plagiarism. You have to decide. The software is not going to decide that whether the content is plagiarized or not. It only give you the similarity that the similarity available on other databases or other content. So this is the basic difference between the plagiarism and the similarity. That see, people earlier to this regulation asked how much plagiarism is accepted. I would like to very much clarify that plagiarism is 0% accepted, and there is no scope for at least 0.1%. So plagiarism is accepted 0%. But how much? The question is how much similarity index is accepted. So earlier to implementation of UGC regulation for academic integrity, it was actually similarity index report acceptance was depending upon. It is hello.
Manish.
Am I audible?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
So earlier it was depending on the universities, organizations, that how much similarity index report they will accept. Sometimes in the same university, it varies from department to department. But when UGC, due to these shortcomings, UGC has framed a regulation to bring all organizations' research activities under one standard. Hello.
Manish, yeah, please go ahead.
अच्छा, अभी आवाज आ रहा है?
आ रहा है. Please go ahead.
Okay, so earlier it was depending on the universities and organizations that when UGC came into the picture, and UGC has drafted a regulation and implemented in 2018 to bring the same standard for all organizations who are HEIs. So this initiative have taken from the UGC. UGC in fact started to provide anti-plagiarism software services since 2013, and they have chosen at that time Turnitin and provided to selected universities which are recognized by 12B and 2F of UGC under UGC Act 1956, and it continued actually to some of the institutions, some of the research institutions and other universities, and it continued till 2016, and in 2016 Turnitin was discontinued by Inflibnet, body of UGC, and Urkun has been given. Urkund anti-plagiarism software has been given to all the universities. But you see, the regulation, the University Grants Commission Promotion of Academic Integrity and Prevention of Plagiarism in Higher Educational Institutions Regulations 2018 came into the existence on 23rd of July 2018. So this regulation came and in 2019. In 2019, a PDS system has been implemented by Encrypted. Under the PDS system, means plagiarism detection software system, the facility of Urkund anti-plagiarism software has been given to the all universities. You see, in this regulation, in academic, popularly known as Academic Integrity Regulation 2018. So in this regulation, I would like to inform you some of the terms that we define. One of the term is academic integrity. So academic integrity is the intellectual honesty in proposing, performing, and reporting any activity which leads to the creation of intellectual property. So it is very clear that honesty is one of the parts to propose, perform, report of any activity which is directly related to the intellectual property. The other term year. So under this regulation, year means the academic session under which the program is offered. Program means a program of study leading to award of a master's and research level degree. So this is very important. Program does not mean that it is for the UG level. It is only for the PG level and the research level degree. And it is also defined student. Under this regulation will be applicable for the students who are the person duly admitted and pursuing a program of study, including a research program. If they are under the research program, whether they are joined it at a full-time or a part-time or a distance mode, it doesn't matter. But at the same time, you see, this facility, this regulation is applicable to these organization. This regulation is applicable to all HEIs, higher educational institutions. Who are the higher educational institutions? The institutions who are having 12B and 2B recognition, 2F recognition of the UGC, or they are deemed to be the university under Section 3 of the UGC Act 1956. So these are the HEIs. For these institutions, they are bound to apply this regulation. Other organizations may also use this regulation to develop their standards in the institution. At the same time, when you are going to apply this regulation, so what are the exclusions while you are going to check your similarity of the document or plagiarism of the document?
Can make use of other things. So,
hello.
Hello. Yes.
So exclusions are there, all quoted work reproduced with all necessary permissions, all references, generic terms, laws, standards, symbols. They has to be excluded while you are checking similarity of a document through anti-plagiarism software tool, or you are checking it manually. Actually, manual checking is not possible. It is possible only when you are having resources and a very, very small document of 1 or 2 pages. But it is not possible for a long text. Now, in this exclusion, it has been precisely mentioned that the original ideas, the research work carried out by the student, faculty, researcher, and staff shall be based on original ideas which shall be include abstracts, summary, hypothesis, observations, results, conclusions, and recommendations, and shall not have any similarity. It means abstract, summary, hypothesis, observation, results, conclusion, and recommendation should be out of any similarity. Means if you have a 1% similarity, then you have to rectify your document. It is not accepted under these categories. So it will also exclude the common knowledge term, like our university name, Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia National Law University, or Constitution of India, like terms are to be excluded from that report, and coincidental terms also, and the 14 consecutive words also. I would like to inform you that the Urkun facility provided by the InflibNet Center, by default in that software, these exclusions has been already made. So you are not worry about to change anything in there, because you are not allowed. That has been customized by the InflibNet for the universities and organizations who are under HEIF. If you purchase Turnitin or any other anti-plagiarism software, you have to set these settings. Then you check your document for the similarity.
Dr. Manish. So, Dr. Manish.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have another 10 minutes, just please.
Okay. I will try within 10 minutes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So UGC, you see, UGC under that regulation put similarity under the heading of levels of plagiarism and penalties. And again, these plagiarism and penalties levels are being divided in two parts. One is for thesis and dissertation, and another for the research publications. You see, there are 4 levels: 0, 1, 2, 3. And under 0 up to 10%, there is no penalty. If your plagiarism is accepted, only 0%. But your similarity is if less than 10%. Up to 10%, then there is no penalty, and your paper or your thesis will be accepted. But if your level is more than 10 and less than 40, up to 40, then you will be, a researcher has to be asked to revise his work and submit within 6 months. So these 2 levels are acceptable, but level 2 and 3 are quite harsh. You see, if your plagiarism level is, your similarity level is, more than 40, above 40 to 60%, you may be debarred from submitting your revised script for 1 year. So you cannot submit your document up to your thesis. Even you have revised within 2 months, 3 months, doesn't matter, you are debarred to submit it again for 1 year. But if you are on level 3, your similarity of your document is more than 60%, then a student has the registration of that student has to be cancelled. So these are the similarity indexes made by the UGC under the term of plagiarism. It means UGC is UGC has rightly said that if you have not plagiarized anything, your plagiarism index is 0%, but if your similarity is more than 10%, it also comes under the act of plagiarism. Levels are same. It is for the academic and research publication, and it is applicable to all, even if the teaching or non-teaching staff of the university. It is applicable to each and everyone in the university for if they are going to take any benefits from their research publications. So up to 10%, there is no problem. Your paper has to be accepted, but its level again 10 to 40% if you are on level 1. So the university or the organization may ask you to withdraw. So at level 1, there is no penalty. But you see at level 2, you will be asked to withdraw your manuscript, you will be denied a right to one annual increment, and at the same time, you will be not allowed to supervise any masters or PG student scholar up to 4 years. So this is quite harsh, and the level 3 is too harsh because you will be asked to withdraw your manuscript. You will not get 2 successive. That is again where you are going to have a financial loss. Again, see, you will not be allowed for 3 years to supervise any PhD or. So the good thing about this regulation is that you have not only standard to how to analyze the plagiarism and other issues. You have also a remedy. Because earlier committee, what kind of committee will be there, who will be the member of those inquiry committees and all that. So UGC also suggested in this through this regulation, 2 committees has to be made, and these committees are the DAEP and the IAP. So DAEP is the Departmental Academic Integrity Panel. Under this panel, the chairman will be the head of the department. Suppose you lodge a complaint in the university against anyone that he has submitted something and that is plagiarized. So in that case, the university will see that from which department this problem. Suppose this problem is from the Department of the Sociology. So that complaint has to be sent to the Department of Sociology. In that department, there must be a committee that is called DAEP, and the chairperson will be the head of the department and another senior academician from outside the department. He can't be from the same department. If he is from Sociology, maybe called from the Department of Mathematics or any other. And the third person should be well versed in anti-plagiarism tools and to be nominated by the head of the department. And both of these members, except chairman, both these members having
Hello sir. हाँ सर बोलिए
tenure of 2 years.
मजे में सर बताइए.
And 3 members.
Yes sir, सब बढ़िया है आपके विषय से.
And the committee has to be organize a meeting. At least there must be 2 members, including chairman. It means
Nexus में है.
And they have to submit their report within 45 days to the IAP, means Institutional Academic Integrity Panel. So in Institutional Academic Integrity Panel, you see that panel, the chairman should be maybe the Pro VC Dean Senior Academician of HEI, member Senior Academician then other than chairman, to be nominated by head of the HEI. Head of the HEI means university director, university vice chancellor, institute director, and head of the institution. 1 member nominated by a head of the HEI outside the HEI, and another person will work with the anti-plagiarism software tools. So the tenure of this committee is for 3 years except the chairman. And at the same time, you see, the chairman could not be same in both of the cases of DAEP or IAP. The chairperson cannot be the same. And while the meeting is convened, at least 3 members should be there, including chairperson. And within 45 days, they have to submit their report to the head of the institution. It means if something has been lost against some plagiarized work, then it takes 90 days to complete this one. And IAP has to consider DAEP recommendation under this light of this regulation, and they can also make again investigation and send to the vice chancellor or the head of the institution. And head of the IAP has a responsibility to send the report copy to the complainant, and to whom against the complaint has been lodged has to be sent to him also. So this is the figure you can see. the person who has plagiarized, he is blinded, both eye, he can't see. He has not seen anything. He has not, followed any research ethics. The second one is the similar one. You can see, he can see with one eye. It means his work is not, full work is not his. He has taken and from somewhere else, but he has mentioned, acknowledged, but the original work has stood first, stood higher than both of these. So I just, because there is always a question that what is plagiarism and the copyright. So you see, I am just,
Dr. Manish,
yes.
yeah, please quickly summarize. Thank you.
So on plagiarism, so actually plagiarism is an offense against the author, whereas the copyright is the offense against the copyright holder. Plagiarism is actually the idea-centric and license, and the copyright is the licensing-centric approach. I will give you an example. Suppose there is a book edited by somebody else, and there are 10 chapters. Okay, if somebody has taken some content from that book in his work and he has not acknowledged, it is against the author, and that is the plagiarism. But at the same time, if he has copied the entire document and pass on to others without taking permission to the copyright holder, that is actually the infringement of the copyright. So you can see, plagiarism is more, more legal, more ethical actually. But the copyright infringement is actually more legal. So if you see in between, the both who are actually morally did wrong and also the legally did wrong are these one actually, because they have also used their content and also may reproduce many copies without taking permission of that copyright holder. So violation of their economic right also they had violated. So this is the basic difference between the plagiarized work and the copyright. In the copyright, only the copyright holder can lodge the complaint against for the repay or for the maintenance of that. But in case of the plagiarism, anybody can complain that his work is plagiarized. He has taken from somewhere. It is not his work. So this is basic difference. So you can see the plagiarism is more connected with the moral issue, whereas the copyright is connected with the legal issue. So in my opinion, plagiarism is less legal and more ethical. So in my opinion, plagiarism only be curbed by morally correct. If you are ethically correct, if you are using right things in research activities, definitely we can curb the plagiarism. So one, can I have 5 minutes more? How much time I have right now?
Actually, yeah, maximum 5 minutes because another speaker is waiting. So yeah, please.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So actually, UGC is providing earlier, plagiarism detection software, and then the earlier MHRD Minister, Mr. Javadekar, has started that program, and when Mr. Pokhariyal has come in between, and he inaugurated a program, Sodh Suddhi on September 1, 2019. When under this Sodh Suddhi program, Urkun has been provided to all HEI. There are certain limitations. The limitation is that this is provided only to the full-time PhD scholars and permanent faculty members. The other limitation was that only 4 documents can be checked in a subscribed year. The third one was checked that a document will be dealt with not more than 60,000 characters. So document should be within 60,000 characters. And each researcher shall be assessed under its supervisor or guidance. If cap is over, document cap is over, so if it is requested to the INFLIMNET PTS system, they may increase by 20% of your quota. Suppose you have 100 teachers in your organization and 100 PhD scholars. So now you are having 200. So you multiply 200 by 4, means you have right to check your 800 documents in a year. But it can be extended. I have heard from many of the friends that no, UGC is quite humble this time. They are exceeding document cap on request. So
Yeah.
actually, I cannot, online training can't be done right now. So
So yeah,
I think
yes, thank you so much, Dr. Manish. I think you also wanted to first the light demo of Urkund, but
Yes.
maybe I think sometime next another will invite you separately to give the live demo of Urkund. So our
I understand. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I am.
yes sir, please. Yes, Prabhas sir.
Yes, Sandeep.
Yes, sir. Now,
Hello.
Dr. Prahlad Talk is about to speak, so I request you to please introduce him.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sandeep. Thank you, Dr. Manish, for a wonderful presentation about UGC initiative about plagiarism. Now we have another speaker, Mr. Prahlad Jadhav, Senior Manager, Library, Khaitan and Company. He has 17 years experience. He is a recipient of so many awards. Now I request Mr. Prahlad Jadhav to come forward and enlighten us with his thoughts on smart tools for teaching and learning. Dr. Prahlad.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Prabhat ji, for giving me the opportunity. Thank you so much, Phatak ji, Sandeep Phatak sir,
Yes.
for all your supports. Good evening to one and all. Good evening to my friend Seema Divedi. She's my batchmate. There are a couple of friends who is in the audience. Rushali is there, if I'm not wrong. Dr. Shri Ram was there. So with your blessings, with your supports, I'm going to start this session. So today's session is talking about the smart tools for teaching and learning. How much time I have, Dr. Sandeep? 40 minutes?
Yes, sir. 45 minutes. Yeah, please go ahead, sir. 45 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes.
So we will start with what are the technology, why we are talking about the technology, and that is in the teaching and learning. So we know the days where, in the ancient days, how teachers are teaching us. You also know the example of Karna. He was taking lessons from his guru without knowing it. So at that time, he asked, give me your thumb, and he had given. So that situation and this situation is totally different. That time, teachers are very particular. They are giving a lot of GANs and everything. But the scenario had changed. And with the help of technology, we are changing. See the effect of technology. Someone is using what? The 3 crores are using the wire to hold, but the another one is using Wi-Fi. This is called technology. This is, my dear friend, this is called technology. So we'll just check what I have in my kitty bag for you. I want to tell you about the ICT. Many of us, ICT means information communication technology. But I want to repeat that. What? Innovate, connect, and transfer. For me, innovate, connect, and transfer. In teaching domain, 3 important components are there. For me, teachers. Another important component is the students, their evaluations, and another important component is ICT. I had converted that information communication technology to innovate, connect, transform. So how we are going to add? For me, in this COVID period, not in this COVID period, someone had clearly mentioned that content is the new resource of this economy. Yes, my dear friend, content is the new king. Content is the king. If you have a good content, then definitely there will be a buyer for that. Then definitely there will be a viewer for that. Definitely there will be a user for that. As already Dr. Ranganathan sir had informed you, told us through his 5 laws of library science. Right information to the right user. Right information means right content to the right user. That is the importance of content. That is the importance of content. We'll go ahead. See, very simple calculation. Teacher plus content equal to students. Very simple calculation. It is a very simple calculation from any domain. Teacher plus content equal to student. So this is the way technology, content and teacher are combining together and giving their fruitful knowledge to the student. Their fruitful knowledge to the student. I will check what is the next with us. My objective from this talk. What is my objective? I have to inform you what are the free available ICT tools are there, MHRD resources are there, what are the other I can say other tools, what are the data storage tools, and I will try to give you also a hands-on training on any one of the virtual lecture if possible, if time promotes. And also important in COVID, in Corona period, that you should promote your pre and post promotion of your talk. Then only it will get weightage. From last 2 to 3 days, I am checking on the WhatsApp. There is a lot of promotion about this talk. So I'm really happy. The way Association of Madhya Pradesh is working, I'm really happy for that. They are working very hard for that. So what is next with us? See, there is two tools, screw and screwdriver. Before they meet each other, there is no purpose. But when they meet together, then only the purpose of that, both of them purposes come out. So that is the important. That is the important. The tool should be there, content should be there, it should mix together, and then it should reach to the student. So that is the important, my dear friends. Then only it will make some purpose. So you should be a smart teacher. You should be a smart teacher, like that dog. I'm telling you, all the intelligence unit in India, in the world, they had dog score with them because they know they are very smart in digging out the information, in digging out the proofs, what they want. So like that, you should be very smart in terms of content creating, in terms of content delivering. Then only teacher domain can compete in this competitive, in this information, in this data explosion world. So next, why I am talking all this here? Why technology? Why content? Why student? Why teachers? Because I want to tell you that e-content teachers are important, and there are two important stakeholders. Who are they? First one is teachers. Yes, if they are working on their content, they can reduce. If they are working on their content, they can reduce their actual timing and hard work. One teacher can teach unlimited students. See the best example of today's session. 140 students are there in this session. I am unable to get it, but efforts of Sandeep sir, I got it. So this is the effect of virtual learning. Then additional income can be generated. And of course, for teaching domain, it is very important as API is there. According to UGC, there is the API is there. Then institute, as per NAC, you have to create e-content for the LMS, Learning Management System. And e-content is the soul of LMS. If teachers create e-content, college can implement LMS easily. So what I have with my kitty bag for you. E-content can be produced in two ways. First one is traditional and the second one is smart. Earlier days, very earlier days, someone have to call to record my video. But now it is very easy and it can be termed as a smart AV production. Earlier process called as traditional AV processes and today's process called as smart AV process. So we'll check how, why I am talking smart. Why? Because everyone had their weapon in their hand. Not only students, even teachers had, everyone had the smartphone in their hand. So with the help of smartphone, you can make changes, you can make amendments, you can make, lecture deliver virtually. So this weapon, please use it for your benefit. Don't use it for other purpose, but use it for your benefit purpose. So what is the next? Yes, to create the e-content, to deliver the e-content, there are two basic requirements is there. This is the online platform. I will tell you about the offline also. If you have PPT in your smartphone, it is very good. And the second option is screen recorder. Okay. All smartphones have the PPT. All smartphones have the inbuilt screen recorder. Then also I will request you should download DU Recorder, which is available on Google Chrome. And it is very easy to use. That's why I'm asking you. So in this way, you can create the PPT, you can record your screen, and you can upload that video on the YouTube, Facebook, social media platform to deliver your e-content. Right. So, before delivering the e-content, you have to collect the contents to create the e-content. So what are the tools you can use? What are the tools? Earlier, you should are giving the knowledge, but nowadays Google Guru is there. Nowadays Google Guru is there. What type of tools Google provide you? Google Search, Google Advanced Search, Google News, Google Alert, Google Customized Search, Google Translation, Google Image and Reverse Search, Google Drive, Form, and Google Books and Scholar, which is very important tools for the teaching domain. So before going to the Google, I want to highlight you. The web is divided into three parts: surface web, deep web, dark web. Surface web is 90. It's just it's just 7%. Surface web is just 7%. The information which is available on the Google on any other search engine, that is called surface web. The deep web, the information which is available on the firewall without login you can't get, that is called deep web, and they are 90%. But the information which is available in 3%, that is called dark web, which can be used for a criminal activity, which can be used for a higher level of defense strategy. So it is very much codified. But as a normal person, you and me, we are only experiencing surface and deep web. So now we go to the one by one to the Google tools. Why I am talking about the Google tool in this technology session? Why I am talking about the Google tool? As you are already aware with the Google. Google is important. Why? If student wants something, they could go to the Google. If faculty wants something, they go to the Google. If researcher wants something, they go to the Google. If my kids want something, they go to the Google. If my wife wants a new recipe, she go to the Google. That's why Google is very much important. See, Google can be a supplement to your tools. So please use Google as a supplement tool to you. What next? Yes, the 5 strategies. The 5 search strategies. I am considering myself as a search strategy for the information retrieval. So in that 5 search strategies, a simple keyword. Quoted Digital Library of India, quoted complete. This is called simple keyword. Then Boolean logic operator. Since certificate course in library science, master degree, bachelor degree, we all thought this. How to use Boolean logic operator to connect 2 different keywords, to separate 2 different keywords, to group 2, 3, 4 different keywords. So this is called Boolean logic operator. What are they? And or not. That is called and or not. So this is you can use very efficiently. So the next one from the Google is group term. See how I am using the Boolean logic operator and group term. Residence or home or housing. This is my first phrase. And the second phrase is and elderly or age. So here, what I want to say, you should narrow down your search strategy from broader level to narrower. So in this way, you can make your search strategy narrowing. Even in the Google, you can search for a specific type of document. .pdf, .ppt, .doc. So it will be easy to search for you for a presentation, for a PDF, for a Word document. So what's next? Next is, whenever you are searching something on the Google, you will get 2 types of search. What are they? First one is paid, second is an organic. Don't go for the paid because they are the advertiser. Who are they? They are the advertiser. This is your real assets. Whenever you are searching something, try to locate in this area. This is called organic. This appear because of your keyword. This appear because of Google indexing. So most of the time you should concentrate on this, and this is really useful for you. So what next Google have for you? Yes, my dear friend, Google is just thinking like a man. For example, if I'm making today some recipe in my kitchen with my wife, some other person also tell me, you can also make that recipe in that way also. So that is called similar. So whenever you are searching something on the Google, Google will give you an option. My dear friend, you are asking this information. According to your keyword, these are the real feed. But my suggestion is that you should also go to the similar and check what content is similar available to your keyword. And it is available where? See, drop down menu, just click, similar option is there. Okay. Now the cache memory. What is cache memory? Many times whenever our mobile is full, that time they ask us, please delete some cache memory. The same thing, if Googles are not getting hit on the keywords, then that information will be shifted from active memory to the cache memory. But Google, whenever you find that information is required by that person, that time they will recommend you, please go and check cache memory also. There is something hidden in that. So this is the smart feature, sir. It will not available on the home page. It will available internally, hiddenly, and you should know how to pull it out. You should know how to pull it out. So what next we have? See, Google is trying to give you best. He is just observing. He's putting users is putting keywords or PDF. he had come up with the advanced page option. What is the advanced page? In a single click, you can find everything. In a single click, you can find everything. Just like this. When it was updated, it will give you options. You can search the domain .edu, .com, .nic.in, .pib.links. So it will, according to domain, you can search. Then according to document, PPT, PDF, doc, or even you can search if that content is copyright or if that content is freely. So in this way, Google is helping you with the help of advanced search. So what next? My dear friends, don't depend that much also on the Google. I once went for Google to ask for medical advice. I had gone from mild headache to clinical need in 3 clicks. So please apply your mind. Whenever you are using the Google, please apply your mind. So what's the next with us? Current information. As we are the librarians, we are most of the time we are looking for current information, current news. So definitely Google is helping you. What tools Google is providing you? Yes, Google News and Google Alerts. The another tool which is very important, not from Google, but it is from double domain, that is called News Aggregator. So what is Google News? This is Google News. Go to the Google and Google News. You will get all the information which is published in the news industry within a fraction of a second. See the example. I want one information which was published in Business Standard 26 June 2019, page number 6. And I just type business in education in business. On my first hit, I got it. It means what? It is very easy to search current information, current news with the help of Google News. M.J. Anthony, very much famous author, editor of Business Standard. He always write on the education and legal domain, and many times articles do lot of quality contents. So I am using that Google News. So what is my approach in terms of getting current news? First, I go to the Google. If my luck is not with me, then I go to the google.com. Again, if I fail there, then I go to the e-paper of that paper. Why I am talking of e-paper? Because there is the importance of e-paper, no newspaper. My dear friends, I am reading 18 newspaper daily. 18 newspaper daily to update myself, to update my bread and butter owner, and to update my last professional. So what are these? Print newspaper, e-paper, and online paper. Print newspaper and e-paper, they are both same. The content which is available in newspaper, print, the same will be available in the e-paper. So how to access e-paper? Some are free, some are registration based, some are subscription based. The Hindu is the subscription based. The Financial Times is the subscription based. Then what is the format? E-paper format is JPG, PDF, and text. Okay. Then why you are talking about online newspaper? Suppose I am the editor of the Times of India. I got an information. I got a news early in the morning, 4 o'clock, and I want to publish that. All print paper publications stop at 12 o'clock, and it went for a circulation. So at that moment, if I want something very urgently to publish, I will publish on my .com, online newspaper. Many times my MD called me, Prahlad, this is the news from the RBI. Can you give it to me? It is published in Times of India. So I search newspaper, print newspaper. I didn't find. I search e-paper. I didn't find. Then I realized that he's talking maybe about the online newspaper. So it is our responsibility. We should know the resources where it can be published. So this is a very basic things from our profile. What next we have? Archive. Many times we require some backdated information for research purpose, for any purpose. Suppose if your institute facing some criminal charges, some legal charges, and they want some backdated information. So that time, Times of India had a very good archive, and I am a regular user of that. They had arranged very systematically, very particularly, year-wise, month-wise, date-wise, and I am a regular user of that, and I am a very big fan of that. Because of that Times of Archive, I have created my own archive in my office, institutional repository, on the basis of this, how they are organized. So next we have the news aggregator. We had covered Google News, now the news aggregator. What is the news aggregator? My dear friends, we are in the app-based world. Everything we want on the app. One click, there should be available all the things. And the same thing, news content, everyone wants before they get up from the bed. The news aggregator play an important role. And for me, it is playing the news daily hunt. It is playing the daily hunt app. It covers 14 languages, right? It gives you topic wise. It covers 397 newspapers. And earlier it was only classify ad, but now it becomes news aggregator. And I'm proud to say you that It is an Indian app which is dominating the world in terms of news aggregating. So I am using Daily. My dear friends, we are the librarians. We are the doctor of information professionals, right? So we have to be very careful. So if there is any fake news, we should be able to detect that. We should be able to validate the news. So with the help of Alt News, that is called Alt News app. I'm getting some negative feedback of that. Currently, I'm using Fact Hunt, another app which can be easily validate the news whether it is original or false, whether it is correct or fake. So I am using Fact Hunt as a to check news validity. Okay, so there is a jokes for you. Jokes in between doctor and patient. Doctor, I have some bad news and some very bad news. The lab called with your test results. They said you have 24 hours to live. Patient, 24 hours, that's terrible. What is the very bad news? Doctor, I have been trying to reach you since yesterday. It means the current information should reach to the user at the right time. Otherwise, it will be basi Eid for them. It should not be a basi news or basi Eid. It should be a current news only. So what next we have? Google Alerts. Another important tool from the Google Alerts. It will help you to create alerts. How you can create the alerts? Just go to the Google and just type Google Alert. It will give you this page. Here you put your keywords, use and or not, whatever you want to use, and create the alerts. Suppose you are thinking that your alert is not according to your keywords, you can edit it, you can change it. Suppose if you think your project is completed, your PhD is completed, then you can delete also. You can delete also. So this is the setup page of Google Alerts. See what are the options available in the Google Alerts. How often, which sources, .com, .nic, .edu, which language, which region, and deliver to where. I am telling you again, deliver to where. We are the information professionals. We should deliver to us first. We should filter that information. Then only give it to your principal, to your management. Otherwise, all junk mail will go to your management. They will short you. And don't inform that you are using the Google News, because अगर आप अपना tool ही बता देंगे उनको Google Alert, तो then आपकी value खत्म हो जाएगी. You have to be very particular. And this is the best example for me how I am getting alerts on my email ID. See, I am using Yahoo. Yes, I want to tell you, Google is not discriminating. You can take alerts on Yahoo. You can take alerts on Reddit. You can take alerts on any of the email. Even you can take alerts on the Outlook also. So this is the important features of Google Alert. See, there was a meteorological department in India. Many times they predict there will be heavy rain in Mumbai for 24 hours, aisa. But many times it fails. So your alerts should be proper, precise, up to mark. Then only it will get you value. Otherwise, बोलेगा इसको कुछ काम नहीं, ये सिर्फ junk mail भेजता है हमको. So you have to be very careful in terms of sending alerts to your management people. So what next? Yes, now you can become a webmaster within 5 minutes. How? Just like Google, you can create your own custom search engine. How? Just go to the Google, type Google custom search engine. So you will get this page, right? Just put some name to your search engine here. For example, research. Make short description of your search engine here and language, and mention here resources. Suppose I am from teaching background, so I want all the news from the UGC website, AICT website, MBT, DTA, MHRD. So I will list it down here. Friends, don't type here www.ugc.ac.in, because we have the typo error. We had just forget to type. So it is better to avoid that error. You just open that URL, copy that URL, and paste it here. And once you click on this next, your search engine is ready. So how much time? Within 4 to 5 minutes, you can create your customized search engine. Whenever you are going to search there, yeah. So you put your keywords and you have to search here. So this page will open.
Dr. Anand, I think please keep your mobile slightly away from your computer. Otherwise, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Right?
Yeah.
Audible?
Fine. Yeah. Please.
Okay, sorry for that. So this is the page. Means the customized search engine will search the listed sources only. It will not go to the www. In this case also, you are narrowing down from www to that 7 to 8 resources only. You can put their n number of resources according to your requirement. So you become webmaster. The next tool from the Google, that is called Google Translation. Yes, my dear friend, earlier I am spending 10,000, 12,000 on a translation service for my office purpose. German language, Japanese language, somewhat. So now I'm saving that. I'm only spending 1,500 to 2,000. Now I'm saving that document. 1,500 to 2,000 to put that document. It is not mobile, my mobile. I guess AD's. Okay, right. Okay. So with the help of Google Translation, you can translate document. But I would suggest you not only depend on the Google Translation, you should check, you should proofread with the help of subject expert, which I am doing for my office purpose. So before going ahead, if you don't check, you can become a pappu. Pappu went to a doctor to get a solution for loose motion. Doctor, tell me what's your problem? Pappu had translated this session, this thing from the one of the translation tool. Suffering from unlimited free outgoing with different ringtones. So my dear friend, you should don't become a pappu. You should be very much clear about your translation app and tool. What next? Lot of images are using in the papers, in the presentation, in the lectures. So from where I get the images? Yes, my dear friend, another tool from the Google, that is called Google Images. It was introduced in July 12, 2001 due to demand from the users. So it's very useful. Just with the help of keyword, you can search thousands of images, millions of images. Okay. Just like fake news, there should be something fake images, right? 3 to 4 weeks back, this image was trending on the social media. And after 2 or 3 days, the Ratan Tata had came and declared that it is a fake news. So don't depend on this. So this is the thing. This is the thing. So how we can validate the image, whether it is real or fake? I had already told you, we are the doctor of information profession. So we should know how to validate. So use Google Image, click on this icon, camera. This option will open you. If you don't have the JPG of that image, just put the URL here. Just put the URL here and search. It will give you the original source of information where it is published. If that is not published anywhere, then it will not give you. Okay. Suppose you have an image. I had an image this. I saved on my desktop and then I uploaded here. And then I click on the search. What did I get? See. One of the famous actors from the film industry had mentioned this is the fake image, and even it is confirmed by the Tata. So this way you can validate the image also. So next, Google भी अजीब चीज है यारो. Google भी अजीब चीज है यारो. Why search कर रहा था? हंसी आ गई. तुरंत पूछ लिया. Do you mean केजरीवाल? I guess no one from the app in this audience. So just take it as a joke. We will go ahead. Yes. Another tool which can be useful for the teaching. Cloud. Why cloud? For storage, for applications, for database, for server. How you can use cloud? Private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid cloud. These types of services are there. The apps for using cloud computing. Mega, Amazon Drive, Box, Google Drive, Digo. Mega, it gives you 50 GB. Amazon Drive, it gives you 5 GB. Box, it gives you 10 GB, and Google Drive, it gives you 15 GB. But Digo gives you 100 GB. So you can use these apps for your cloud storage. And this is the Google Drive, which was introduced in 2012 April. And what you can do that, you can upload your folder, you can upload your file. Even on Google, on cloud, you can create the file, sheets, and slides. Even you can create your drawings, forms, map, and site also. But only 15 GB data is available. So many people ask why Google can't increase that space. So they have come up with a feature called Google One, which gives you from 100 GB to 30 terabytes, and which can be used by family member also. If I taken that subscription, I can allot that storage space to my family member also. So this is the way Google upgrading their apps. What next? Now don't say me that you can upload this data, your data on cloud this way. So it should be a logic. You can't upload with the help of Tati, which there should be some logic. Okay. So another, whenever there is something a survey based, we take the feedback. We take feedback from participant. So in the early days, we take the paper form, but nowadays it is changed. We have taken from the online form, right? So what are they? With the help of Google Form, you can do unlimited survey, unlimited respondents, and survey are automatically collected in Google spreadsheet. Lot of themes or options are there. You can add collaborators, and definitely it is 100% free. My dear friends, you can ask such type of question in the Google Form. Short answer, paragraph, multiple choice, check boxes, drop down, file upload. My dear friends, there are add-on. You can restrict 100 users to give the feedback. You can restrict 500 users. Even suppose after this session, if your users want certificates, so at the time of registration, you can add your certificates add-on. So automatically the details will be incorporated in that. They imported the data and it will export the certificates to you. So there are some add-on features available from the Google Form. Now another option from the Google, that is Google Books. The books which are out of copyright, they have digitized, scan it and available for us. You can go, just download, use it. There are copyright book also, but they only give review. 1 chapter, 2 chapter, you can only review. You can't download the whole book. And it is very smart. It is very easy to use, easy to access. No extra weight. Mark it up. You'll have this book forever. The search features is there. And you can become a book smart. The next, Google Scholar. What is that? Search across many disciplines. What it contains? Books, abstracts, and core opinion with articles. From where? Academic publishers, online repositories, universities, and other websites. Okay. So this is Google Scholar. I had created my account on the Google Scholar. My dear friend, you are from the teaching domain. So Google Scholar will help you to create your H index also. So 1 or 2 hours can be used to only explain Google Scholar. So many features are there. So before going ahead, there is a small jokes to you. On last Guru Purnima, I take the blessings from the Google. In this digital age, Guru Purnima, thank you for everything I search and you give me unconditional sea of information. That is the magic of Google. The next one is our MHRD, innovative tools and open access. I will just highlight some of them. From MHRD, I will highlight Shodhganga. 2,32,642 full text synthesis are available. 6,450 synopsis are available. 397 universities are contributing. So Shodhganga is very useful for the researcher if they are in the doing research for creating the literature of review. It is one of the good resource. Not for the only researcher, even teachers can go in a specific discipline and search the that thesis for their research purpose. Next tool, NDL. In COVID-19, NDL play an important role. They are giving access to all the citizens of India to access the resources. And it carries born digital, it carries digital surrogate, it carries digital metadata. Who are there? What are they available in the digital NDL line? School books are there, engineering books are there, science study materials are there, then management books are there, law books are there. Who are the users? School, college, professionals, you, me, educational, academics, researcher, lifelong learner. All these are the users of the NDLI. So another innovative tools, World Digital Library. Yes, I am using this for my research purpose. If you want something on an international level, international domain, please use. It was created by the US Library of Congress and it is very easy to use this. And I also request you, please introduce such type of tools to your library users also. It gives you vast information on a specific domain, on your required domain. The next tool, the last tool of this session is called Open Access. What are the open access? Why it is called as open access? And in COVID period, we should give promotion to the open access. What are they? Free, immediate, research articles, online, availability, reuse rights. If these all things are available, that means it is open access. So what are the components of open access? My dear friend, there are 4 important components. DOAJ, Directory of Open Access Journal, Directory of Open Access Books, Directory of Open Access Repository, and OER. So what is this OER? Open Educational Resources. DOAJ, it will give you a list of journal which is published under open access. So according to your discipline, just go, select it, download the content and use it. Even I am using in my corporate library for my lawyers, such type of innovative resources for them, for their research, for their learning and development. The next one is open access books. Again, one of the important components in open access. Yes, it gives you directory of books which is published in open access, and you can easily go search according to your discipline, download the books and use it. Definitely, I am going to use for my corporate, and they are using very much on this. They are depending on such resources. That open access repository.
Dr. Jadhav.
Yes, how much time? How much?
Request you to summarize in another 10 minutes. Thank you.
That's fine enough. That's fine enough.
Yeah.
Okay, open access repository. These are the listed of repository which is published under open access. It means all the repository which is published under open access. Even India had published in this directory. And if I'm not wrong, Bedekar College of Thane, they had repository in open access repository. Okay, this is the way you can search. Now, open education resource material. Why it is called open education resources? Redistribute, share, use, adapt, repurpose. So, what are the types of OER? Open courseware, online module, open textbook, streaming video, open journal, digital tutorial, learning objects. So these are the type of OER. If it is an open education resource, there should be 5 important features: retain, reuse, revise, remix, redistribute. It should be there. Then only it can be termed as an open education resource. This is the platform. Open education resource, search by subject, search by complete course, search by multimedia, search by open access books, and this is the link where you find all the resources of open education resources. I am going to this link. I have downloaded all the education resources which is available for my legal domain, and I am giving access to my users. So to summarize on this, I will just go with this joke. If all thing is on the digital, then there will be a situation like this, that students, the teacher is wanted to distribute the textbook, is saying no textbook, I am strictly web fed. How to conduct webinar, the last part of this session. I am using Zoom and WebEx. It is very much controlled by the host and co-host. Screen sharing, if you are talking about the content, e-content, then you should know how to share, how to conduct webinar. It is easy to record. You can put sessions live on FB and YouTube also. These are the some screenshots. These are the mute, unmute, stop video. The participant list can be seen. This is the chat option. These are the raising the hand for the query. So this is the way I am using Zoom and WebEx for delivering. Not only your work stops here, you have to promote your e-content, you have to promote your virtual talk. So I am promoting my virtual talk with the help of QR code. My e-content I am promoting with the help of QR code. The second option I am using with the help of my blog. I am writing blogs. With the help of that I am promoting. Then third, I am using my Facebook account to promoting my talks, to promoting my sessions, to promoting my e-contents. Then my website, which is created on the Google site, free of cost. I am using the same also for promoting. And even I have taken this Pune University IR because I can't take my office IR. Even I am putting all my lectures, all my PPT on my office IR. So it can be preserved for future use. So see, don't stop here. If I'm a speaker, I should do pre-promotion activities for my talks. And this is my pre-promotion activities. Before one day, I will put it on the Facebook that I'm preparing for so and so. And this is called post. I had delivered. After deliver, I also post it on different social media platforms. Only to promote, only to get the audience to know what type of contents, what type of knowledge are sharing that. Nothing else. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Dr. Jadhav, for very effective presentation, and actually you shared with us, actually what we are doing. So I think it must be very useful for all the participants. In participant, we have a senior librarians, we have a teachers, and we also have a young librarians. So with these words, once again we thank you. And now,
Hello.
Seema, can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Myself is Dr. Harvinder Kaur from Hoshiarpur, Punjab.
Yes.
Sir, I want that you should give us PPT of this lecture. So
Yeah,
that is very
definitely.
important.
We have already
Can you
announced.
send it to mail?
No, we have announced that it will be uploaded on MPLA website. Okay, ma'am. Please visit.
Okay.
Seema is here. She is our webmaster. Can you hear Seema?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
So please upload the PPTs on MPLA website. So Dr. Prabhat, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm here.
So I think now session is open for question answer. Seema, can you take few questions from chat box?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
please go ahead.
Yeah. First of all, thank you so much, Dr. Manish, sir. for giving us very informative presentation. It's a very useful to all of us. Thank you very much, sir. There is a question from Sanmati Jain for you. Is plagiarism is similar to copyright? Manish sir?
Jadhav sir, can you remove your sharing, screen sharing? Prahlad sir, can you remove your screen
Yes,
sharing?
yes.
Yeah. Yes, Manish sir, question is for you.
I have already spoken about it. See my last slide. Plagiarism is only in the legal issue. And if you are doing another's work without acknowledging him, it's up to them. But at the same time, copyright is the infringement of the licensing. Suppose you have written a book, written an article, but you have transferred your copyright to your publisher. But in your
Dr. Manish, can you put your mobile at some distance? Yeah.
file is not with me. Hello.
Yes, Seema, next question.
Next question is from Suresh D. Nair. Which is the plagiarism software that you recommended to small organizations?
Actually, not a matter of all other organizations. Plagiarism is as good as it has own data. If they have more subscribed databases,
Dr. Manish, I guess your microphone is also on. Yeah, please go ahead, Dr. Manish.
Hello.
now it is okay.
Yeah.
Get a chance to check.
Yes, Seema, next question.
Yes, sir. Another question is from number, there is no any name. Is there any plagiarism free software or open source?
There are so many free softwares, even Hyper or
Manish, please be loud. Manish, please be loud.
any of the other, almost 5 to 6 free anti-plagiarism softwares are available. Personally, I to share that Viper is one of the best anti-plagiarism software. Not exactly completely it is free, but it is providing to check your similarity to some extent. But there are some limitations with the free anti-plagiarism softwares, like not go beyond 10 pages, or you cannot beyond 3,000 words, or you cannot check beyond your size also. And at the same time, if your document is having figures, data, table, such content can't be checked through free anti-plagiarism software.
Thank you, Manish. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, sir. No more question in checkbox for
I have a
Manish
question,
sir.
please. I have a question, please.
Yeah, please introduce yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Lakshman Rao from Hyderabad.
Yes, sir.
I just want to ask Dr. Manish, is there is any way to avoid plagiarism software, but I want to copy, but I want to be away from, catching by software?
Sorry, sir.
What I'm trying to say, I want to copy, but you tell me how do I get out of the software without catching?
Actually, in Turnitin, there was a problem, and in one of the leading institution of this country, there a student has did masters, but he was the UG student of my university, and he used a practice there. He brought entire data into double inverted comma, means under the quote. and he changed the color of the quotes in white color. When it was checked with the with the rider to exclude quoted material, it gave a similarity index 0%. But now these softwares are coming up with new strategies, new techniques. In Orkund, you see the special characters are showing error message. So if you did kind of activities, so in Orkund you will find that there are some problem in your content.
One more, there are so many Indian resources. If I copy them, I'm sure the Orkund or any Turnitin doesn't cover them. So am I safe?